Her mom asked her three simple words. Are you happy? Aly Kravetz had spent her whole life building towards something. Law school, marriage. It seems like she had a plan. And when that question cracked her open, everything changed. She left law school, she left a marriage, she walked straight into on honing her full magical powers and then built a business out of that. And today she runs the only co-working space in New York City dedicated entirely to spiritual and wellness practitioners. She coaches witches, healers, and readers to actually get paid for their important work. And she's here to give us Spellwork 101, what it really does, why it starts with you, and why your nightly shower might already be the most powerful ritual you're not taking seriously. There's a different way to think about mental health, and it starts with slowing down. Sometimes the longest way around is the shortest way home, and that's exactly why we're taking the Scenic Route. Hi, I'm Jennifer Walter, host of the Scenic Route podcast. Think of me as your sociologist, sister in arms, and rebel with many causes. Together, we're blending critical thinking with compassion, mental health with a dash of rebellion, and personal healing with collective change. We're trading perfectionism for possibility and toxic positivity for messy growth. Each week, we're exploring the path to better mental health and social transformation. And yes, by the way, pretty crystals are totally optional. You ready to take the Scenic Route? Let's walk this path together. Welcome to the Scenic Route podcast.
It is so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It was so fun. We connected on Threads. I think you sent something like, oh, some Christian podcast was like rejecting you or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, come on in, my dear Aly. We'll be friends.
Yeah, I felt very, very welcome. It was actually an entrepreneur podcast, and it's not the first time that it's happened. Yeah, that's what's so weird about it, because, you know, if a podcast advertised itself as a Christian podcast, I probably wouldn't necessarily reach out and pitch myself unless they, you know, were specifically looking for folks in the spiritual space, in the magical space. Yeah. These have been entrepreneurial podcasts that have said we're looking for female entrepreneurs, we're looking for entrepreneurs of color, we're looking for entrepreneurs with interesting stories or who have overcome challenges, whatever their pitch was, but usually centered around something about entrepreneurship that I absolutely can speak to. And it's only been after pitching myself that I've gotten the response like, oh, no, we think our audience is mostly Christian, and so we're not interested in having you on the show. And it's like,
okay, fair. You could have told me sooner, but thank you. But I don't know, I think pitching is so wild. Like, I feel I can share this because you have a podcast too, right?
Yes, the Better Witch podcast. Yeah,
we're gonna link it in the show notes because, man, I get so many wild pitches. Wow. I think the wildest one was, there was a lady, she was pitching me and she was like, oh, I've listened to your podcast and we're so aligned, like, with values and everything. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm all for, like, feminism, anti-neoliberalism, anti-capitalism, like, let's go. And then I looked her up. And she was like a former host on Fox News. And like, I'm very confused right now. I think the only thing we share is the tone of skin.
Yeah.
That's a very weak denominator here, but like, wow.
Wow.
So we got sidetracked and detoured, which is fine because we're on the scenic routes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, Aly, what's the scenic route you've taken in your life? Like, one, that detour that kind of like changed everything for you and brought you to the place where you're currently at.
Yeah, wow. I feel like my whole life has been the scenic route. Like, I've never really been on the express train anywhere, which I think probably has a lot to do with just the realities of where I'm from. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, New York. It is not an area that is dripping in opportunities and abundance. It's definitely a challenging place to grow up in. So a lot of folks coming from where I come from end up taking the scenic route through life because we don't really have much of a choice. Mm-hmm. We have to, maybe work a little bit harder and kind of redirect more often in order to be able to achieve our dreams because the resources there to go from dream to reality are not necessarily like readily available. So I don't think I'm unique in that regard. But I would say probably the biggest shift or the biggest scenic route moment for me was stepping away from law school. I had spent my entire life thinking I'm going to be a lawyer. And when you ask kids, what are you going to be when you grow up? I was someone that from like the age of 7 thought I knew the answer to that and always said I'm going to be a lawyer. And, you know, Aly's going to be the first lawyer in the family. And, you know, this was something that was well known amongst my family members. And so everything that I did from age 7 up until, you know, my mid 20s was all centered around trying to achieve that reality. Everything that I did in school, taking my academics very seriously, and majoring in political science and, you know, interning for judges and doing all the things. So one thing I would never have expected was that after 2 years of law school, I would decide to not return for my third year and complete my degree and instead go back to hospitality for some years. I had bartended and managed bars in order to put myself through school. And so this was a skill that I was able to fall back on. So I went back into hospitality for some years. And then when COVID hit, obviously hospitality in New York City all of a sudden was non-existent. And that gave me the opportunity to once again take another detour on my path, this time asking myself, what was it that I actually wanted to do? And how could my personal practices as a tarot reader, I had been reading tarot for 20 plus years at that point, or at least 10 years at that point, 20 years now. But at that point, probably 10, 12 years. I had just recently become Reiki certified and really wanted to recreate my life and not necessarily have it rooted in this previous vision of myself as a lawyer. And that's when Bronx Bodega started. I'm doing tarot readings online, making teas, candles, soaps, and that just kind of grew. And that is what has brought me here.
It's beautiful. And it's interesting that you brought this up, or like it was known amongst your family, Aly's going to be a lawyer. How was your family's reaction of, oh, hey, I am Aly, I'm no longer want to be a lawyer, I'm a witch now?
Well, luckily the conversation wasn't quite that direct. There was time to process one thing and then time to process the other. I think, you know, when it comes to my extended family, someone who's not necessarily super close with all my extended family members. So really when I think about the decisions that I make in my life, I'm really just concerned about how they will impact my immediate family, which is comprised of my mother and my sister and my brother, and their children to some extent. And so really when it was time for me to make that decision, telling my mother was the thing. I mean, I was paying for myself to go through school. She wasn't financing that. So it wasn't like she had a say in the decision. But my mother is somebody that I've always liked to run my big decisions by, just to kind of hear her viewpoint on it. And she surprised me because, you know, I had spent my entire life working to be in law school and for this moment. So I wasn't really expecting her to be so positive when I told her that I wasn't going back. But her simple question was, are you happy? And I said no. And she said, okay, well then don't go back. You know, figure something else out, and you could always go back in the future if you wanted. So that's really all I needed to hear, you know, was her championing for me to choose myself and choose happiness first in my life, and to put that before the expectations people might have of me, or maybe even the promises or declarations that I had made, you know, when I was 19, 17, 15, because who knows what they want to do then. So having her support was great. The witch thing took a little bit longer to come around to, for me, first of all, and then for her. When I was in high school and I first started exploring witchcraft, she was very opposed. You know, she grew up in a very strict Christian household and has those values and always tried to impart those values on us, kept us in the church, and, you know, really kind of isolated us from even the things we watched on TV were very monitored and strictly curated for us. So as a high schooler, we had some really unfortunate fights, and she was very not supportive. But what I learned in growing up is that ultimately our parents are just scared as hell for us. They're afraid for our well-being. They're afraid we're going to make decisions that are mistakes that we can't go back from, that we can't recover from. And so she was just a typical mom that was just afraid that her teenage daughter was getting involved in something that would harm her in her life or in her afterlife. And once I began to live my life as a working witch, she started to see the positive impact that my spirituality had on my life, and then the positive impact that I was able to have on other people's lives. And she really started to come around. I don't think she'll ever, be casting a spell anytime in her lifetime, but it makes me really happy that she'll wear Bronx Witch merchandise t-shirts, and she's got copies of the books I've been published in. Yeah. And, if people ask what I do, she's happy to say that I'm a tarot reader and I own a shop in New York City. And so we've definitely come to a good place now as an adult where we can have open conversations about our views, and it's been great.
Like, I think this is such I'm going circling back to this, like, really one powerful question. I think especially a lot of my listeners like me are kind of like in their kind of like midlife mud season, as I call it. And like this simple question, are you happy now, is so potent. Yeah. And I feel often we're kind of scared to ask ourselves because we kind of know the answer.
Yeah.
And it might not be a positive, yes, I'm so happy. It's more like, no, not really. And I might not have been for a long time.
Yeah.
But like you said, it had positive impact on your life, like being a Wiccan and then like going into witchcraft and magic. But do you want to share with us, like, what was something tangible, a positive outcome that you've noticed about your life?
Yeah. It's been something that has helped me with a lot of little and big things. I think one of the biggest things, other than this business, would be my marriage, which is no longer. So I was married for about 12, 13 years, and recently divorced. I met my husband when my ex-husband, when I was 19. And so I really was in some ways a kid still, very much just
very young 19. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't, we didn't get married till I was like 25 or so, 24, 25. But, we met at that age.
Looking back, we were babies.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm not really adulting all the way. So like I'm still a baby, but definitely then, right? So these were the most like super formative years of my life, really important years of my life throughout my 20s, being in this marriage. And I think when you get married at that age, it can be so difficult to evaluate your own happiness. And so, and my mom, she's really good at asking like poignant questions.
Are you happy? Is pretty.
Are you happy was like, wow, okay, seems so simple, but it completely shifted my concern about leaving law school. And then she did it again when I was wondering whether or not I wanted to stay married. And she asked me, well, Aly, she calls me Alicia, do you love yourself? And I was like, and of course my immediate answer was like, yes. Yeah, I was like, yeah, of course I love myself. Like, what do you mean? And then as I sat with that, I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe actually I don't. And maybe my struggle with this marriage is because I don't yet love myself. And part of me might be afraid of being without somebody who does, even if that person's not right for me. That was a poignant question. And then my magic really helped me with the technical aspects of transitioning and getting out of my marriage. There were various rituals that I did for myself to strengthen myself, to strengthen that love for myself so that I could make decisions from a place of I love myself first, rather than I love somebody else first, or I love this relationship first, but also spells for technical things. If I can be totally transparent, I don't think my ex will listen to this.
As transparent as
I'm hoping everyone in the world hears your podcast and hears these episodes, but I'm pretty sure he won't. So I'll go right out and say that.
Oh, we won't name names.
Name names. He'll know this now.
No. I have like 70% women listening, so I think we're safe.
We're probably safe, right? Okay, I'm going to write about it in a book too at some point. So at some point he's going to know this. So I did. Yeah, I have to get used to the idea that like at some point he's going to know about this spell that I cast and this work that I did on him.
Now, get me the juicy details, please.
Right. So, we were living together, obviously as husband and wife, and there became a point in time where he was very upset. And the divorce was something that I asked for. And the short version of the story is basically he wanted to kick me out of the apartment and wanted me to go. Kind of like, you're the one asking for this. You should be the one to go. And the apartment is in my name. It's my apartment, and I am the reason why we have it. And I wasn't really in the financial position to move, and he was. So it really wasn't fair for the idea of like, kicking me out and having me try to figure out how to find an apartment in New York City with these rates. And but that was coming from a place of anger and hurt. And, I think he was just trying to minimize how many,
right? Like,
yeah,
of course.
He wanted to minimize how many changes he had to make in his life, I think. But, the idea of that happening was very scary to me. And I said, this can't happen. So I had to sit at my altar in front of my cauldron and call on my guides and make sure that didn't happen. And 2 days later, he was crying about how he was sorry and apologizing, and I'm going to move out. I found a new place. I'll be out of here in 2 weeks. And not only did he leave the apartment and allow me to continue to live there, he offered to continue paying the rent there. And proceeded to do so for the next couple of years. And that was not something that he would have done had I not.
We'll have people like calling you up for that spell.
Yeah, I got you. I will put it in the book for sure. But if anybody needs it now, just hit me up. Okay, hit me up on Instagram. I got you.
But so what I'm kind of gathering from how what you just shared with us, the way you do magic with the spells. So you said you did the spell to like make your decisions coming from a place of self-love. Yeah. So to me, that sounds very much like you do matching to support you shifting your energy. Like that you are able to have like a different energy to come from this place of self-love and not from anger, resentment, or anything from that kind of bucket.
Right.
Do I hear this between the lines correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I can't remember where I heard it said, but somebody says basically when you cast a spell, you're shifting the energy within yourself first. And then that is radiating out into your world. And that's the way to do it, because if you don't shift within yourself, anything that you're asking for, you're not going to be able to receive it. And this isn't really to hold it or receive it. Yeah, this isn't, to me, it's not very mystic, because it's very much based on a scientific concept of homeostasis. Energy wants to even out, and it wants to match, and like wants to be with like. And so if you're asking for something in your life, but you have not shifted the energy within yourself to match it, then it's simply going to continue to bounce off of each other like, positive and negative ions. Or is that how it works? Or I guess positive and negative and like you want them to be, counter or whatever. You want them to be matched and paired, right? Yeah. So that is where spell work starts. You start inside, and then you are able to.
So you start with yourself. I guess this makes sense, because, if you can call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it manifestation or vision boarding and whatever. Like it always kind of starts with yourself and how you're able to raise your thermostat or you raise your energy. Can you share with us maybe a practice or something that helps you shift your energy? Because I feel we're also kind of stuck in our ways, and we could maybe need some, or could you do with some fresh input on how we can shift our energies? How can we shake it out? Which probably is a remedy as well.
Yeah. Well, I am always advocating for your nightly shower. This is a huge thing that I do. It's so simple. You don't need a single extra thing. You don't need a candle. You don't need a crystal. My nightly showers are not just for the purpose of, getting clean after a long day. My nightly showers are a cleansing ritual for me. It is how I let go of all of the energy that I've accumulated in the day that's not mine.
So you consciously rinse it off.
Consciously rinsing it off. And I do use washes that have certain herbs in them and things like that to amplify that. which people can totally do, but literally your regular shower with whatever soap you already use, by setting the intention that I'm not just washing like dirt off of the surface of my body, but I am also washing away anything that I can't see, that energetic dirt that I've accumulated in the day, other people's crap. You know, we live in New York City. I live in New York City.
Expectations and opinions of the things you should do.
Right. The things I've seen on the news, the things I've seen on social media that have upset me, that I didn't even, you know, I thought when I scrolled I was fine, but that are actually still sitting on my heart and in my energy aura. My shower really helps me to release all of that so that I'm not carrying that into my dreams at night, and I'm not carrying that into the next day.
I love this. It's so simple, right? Like, I mean, that's what always with these things. Like I once had a client was like, well, you're going to tell me now just to breathe. And I'm like, yeah, basically. This is it. Like the simple things are like, or go into water. That's always kind of like what I tell my clients. They were like, if they would have a bingo card, it would be have you exhaled today, and like, have you been in water or near water?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
It's the simple things, really.
It really is. It's simple and it's science. And I think the woo-woo aspect of it is like fun. But I think that it's important for people to understand that the very same principles that govern your physical world are also the same principles that apply in the energetic and spiritual world. And so when it comes to like, quote unquote, learning magic, you really probably don't need all the books and all the YouTube videos and all the classes. If you went to school and just sort of learned basic science, you probably already have an understanding of how this all works.
So if someone would be like, oh, I'm curious, I want to learn more, like, where would one start? I'd probably say it goes back to, you have to start with yourself. You have to.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you want to learn more, I would say the first question is, learn more about what? What aspect of spirituality or magic is it that you're interested in? Are you interested in crystal healing? Do you feel called to working with herbs, and maybe you want to focus on health and nutrition and wellness and how that will change your life or impact your life? So what is it that you want to learn specifically? And then, the usual books, videos, etc. But I think that once you get to a point where you have kind of introduced yourself to some basic concepts, really the most important thing then is to actually start applying them to your life and doing them. So like, imagine reading cookbooks, but never cooking, right? Like, yeah, it's great. Read the cookbook, watch it, Food Network, watch it.
Design books. Like, I love interior design books, but I'm like, that's not the space I'm in right now. Like, It's fine.
Right. So if you really want to learn something, you do have to get hands-on and do it. So learn enough to make you feel comfortable, and then actually start exercising some of these practices and giving them a try.
Like, is there something, I know, like some people, like a lot of people write me and they're like, they're kind of in this midlife where they realize, kind of like, I've all these decisions I've made. They're great. They led me here. Like, I'm grateful for my life. I enjoy my life, but I feel like there is something missing. And I guess if I would ask them the "Are you happy now?" question, there would just be a like I'm comfortable, but is that the same as happy? Like, is there kind of like a spell or energy shifting practice that you would be like, go try that? Or is this something too off the bat?
Well, I mean, you mean to develop happiness, like a spell for happiness?
No, I think I don't know if you can develop happiness, or maybe you can. Prove me wrong, but I think happiness is always something that comes like when you look back and you were like, oh, I was happy then, and I'm not really sure if there's so much awareness of happiness in the moment, or if it's just like a deep sense of gratification and contentment. So I'm also not really sure about the concept of happiness, to be honest. But that's kind of like another philosophical deep dive.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I don't think spell work is going to bring you happiness. And I don't think that there's a spell.
Not a single bullet.
Yeah, I don't think there's a spell for that, nor do I think there's even a particular ritual to engage in for that. I do think that happiness is a state of being, and it's one that you have to cultivate within yourself. And it's a choice that you make. I think we give the power of happiness to external forces. And we say that if we have this amount of money, or we have this type of lifestyle, or maybe this type of person to love us, then we will have happiness. But it's not a physical thing. It's not a possession. It's not something that someone can give you or bring into your life. And because spell work is oriented around that, spell work is designed to bring things into your life, to shift relationships, or to create things. So happiness isn't like that. It's a state of being that you choose to be in. And I do think that getting to that state of being first starts with being in a state of gratitude. And so if you can put yourself into a state of gratitude, then you are on your way to cultivating happiness within yourself that will be independent of what's happening around you. So something sad may happen around you and you may feel the emotion of sadness, but it won't impact the state of being that you are in. And I think that in terms of gratitude rituals can be helpful for that. So whether you have a journal, perhaps, that you write in on a daily basis or a weekly basis, where you list the things that you are grateful for, whether there is a gratitude meditation that you do, maybe every day when you wake up, you have a particular prayer or mantra where you express gratitude for being woken up that day, having another day on this planet, another opportunity to help someone or achieve a goal. So gratitude rituals are definitely going to help you to be in a state of gratitude. And being in a state of gratitude, I think, matures and becomes a state of happiness.
Yeah. That's like, this feels like beautiful words of closure. And I've never really looked at spells this way. So this was really interesting to be like, we use spells to really attract things into our life or speed up things coming into our life.
Right.
So, okay, that's
very
really
external. It can't replace the internal work. The internal work is, and this is where you might see practitioners online reminding people like, hey, magic is not a replacement for therapy. Spells are not a replacement for inner healing and trauma work. These are ways to bring in different things in your life, but that internal work you have to do. And if you don't do it, your spells won't be as effective because, again, attracting like. So
I was on a podcast a few months ago and they said something very similar, but for like working and like I went viral last year. So one of the questions was like, what's that kind of luck that I went viral? And I'm like, yeah, to some extent it was dumb luck because you can't really plan these things. But I had done years of work before that. So the luck had somewhere to land, to dock on, and then multiply.
Right.
So I'd say it's very similar. If you've done the internal work, whatever the spell brings into your life has a place to land.
Yeah. And that's where the spell work also helps too on the practical side, on the external side as well. So like if you're casting a spell, let's say for more prosperity or abundance, if you don't have something that you're selling, you don't have an offer, you don't have an avenue for people to give you money, you're not in a position where you are applying for grants or etc., then the spell is going to fall short. So you have to meet that work in the middle, and there has to be an open pathway for what you are calling into your life to actually go down. And then when that comes down the empty pathway, when it hits you, is it going to stay there because the energy matches? So there's levels to an effective
I mean, this makes total sense. And I think you've explained it beautifully. And still, we will wait for that one particular spell.
Like I said,
when your book is out, so we can all be like, which page we gotta go on. So, Aly, thank you so much it felt kind of like Practical Magic 101.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to hear more about you or if they want to work with you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So my work right now really centers around spiritual entrepreneurs. So definitely if anyone in your audience is a working witch, a healer, reader, doula, product maker, shop owner, I am really, really passionate about using all of the knowledge that I have gained from law school to being an entrepreneur of the last 7 years, opening this physical location in New York, teaching hundreds of witches online and helping dozens of them to launch and grow their businesses. I am definitely the witch to call. If starting or growing your spiritual business is something that you are serious about, the Better Witch Community is the name of my community. You can find us on School. You can find me on YouTube, all under the same name. And you can find me on Instagram as Bronx-witch. That's BRONXWITCH.
Well, we're going to link the Instagram and we're going to link the community and the YouTube channel. So go check out the community. I might drop in myself because I'm also leading into the woo every now and then. I'm known for that. So, Aly, thank you so much for walking the Scenic Route.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so great. Blessed be.
And just like that, we've reached the end of another journey together on the Scenic Route podcast. Thank you for spending time with us. Curious for more stories or in search of the resources mentioned in today's episode? Visit us at scenicroutepodcast.com for everything you need. And if you're ready to embrace your scenic route, I've got something special for you. Step off the beaten path with my Scenic Route affirmation card deck. It's crafted for those moments when you're seeking courage, yearning to trust your inner voice, and eager to carve out a path authentically, unmistakably yours. Pick your Scenic Route affirmation today and let it support you. Excited about where your journey might lead? I certainly am. Remember, the Scenic Route is not just about the destination, but the experiences, learnings, and joy we discover along the way. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on the Scenic Route again.